Have you ever felt unusually tired for no apparent reason? Perhaps you slept well the night before. Perhaps you ate normally. Yet somehow, your energy seemed to disappear before the day had even begun. Or maybe you stood up from your favorite chair and suddenly felt dizzy. Maybe you've forgotten where you place your keys, struggled to focus during conversation, or simply felt off without knowing why. Most people assume these experiences are simply part of getting older. But what if they're not? What if one of the most overlooked health risks after 65 is quietly affecting millions of older adults every single day? The answer may be simpler than you think: dehydration. When many people hear the word dehydration, they imagine extreme situations: a hot summer day, hours spent outdoors, severe thirst. But dehydration often doesn't announce itself so dramatically, especially in older adults. In fact, one of the reasons dehydration becomes more dangerous with age is because many seniors no longer feel thirst as strongly as they once did. The body's natural thirst signals gradually become less reliable. As a result, some older adults can become mildly dehydrated without realizing it, and the effects can be surprisingly serious. Today, we're going to explore 5 hidden dangers of dehydration that seniors often ignore, and why recognizing them early may help protect your health, independence, and quality of life for years to come. Danger 1: fatigue that feels like aging. Have you ever reached the middle of the afternoon and wondered where all your energy went? Perhaps you woke up feeling reasonably well. You had breakfast. You completed a few simple tasks around the house. Maybe you watered the garden, went shopping, or spoke with a friend on the phone. Yet by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you felt completely drained. Not sleepy, not relaxed, drained, as if someone had quietly unplugged your battery. Many older adults experience this feeling, and unfortunately, many assume it's simply part of getting older. They tell themselves, well, I'm not 40 anymore. Maybe this is just what aging feels like. This is probably normal at my age. But what if it isn't? What if one of the biggest reasons behind your fatigue has nothing to do with aging itself? What if your body is simply asking for something it desperately needs? Water. The truth is that fatigue is often one of the earliest and most overlooked signs of dehydration. And because the symptoms develop gradually, many seniors never make the connection. Let's talk about Martha. Martha was 76 years old. She had always been active. She enjoyed gardening. She loved visiting friends. She attended community events regularly. For most of her life, she was the type of person who always seemed to have energy. Then something began to change. At first it was subtle. She found herself sitting down more often. Simple chores seemed harder. Walking through the grocery store felt surprisingly tiring. She started taking longer naps. She canceled social plans more frequently. The most frustrating part was that she couldn't explain why. Her doctor ran several tests. Nothing serious appeared. Everything looked relatively normal. Then one day during a routine conversation, her doctor asked a simple question: how much water do you drink each day? Martha paused. She wasn't sure. Maybe 3 glasses. Sometimes 4. Often less. She rarely felt thirsty. And because she wasn't thirsty, she assumed she didn't need more water. That assumption is incredibly common among older adults. Here's why. As we age, our thirst mechanism becomes less reliable. The body doesn't always send strong thirst signals the way it once did. A younger person may feel thirsty long before dehydration becomes significant. An older adult may already be mildly dehydrated before thirst even appears. This creates a dangerous situation. You can't always rely on thirst to tell you when your body needs water. In other words, your body may be running low on fuel without activating the warning light. Think of your body as a large city. Every organ depends on transportation. Nutrients need to travel. Oxygen needs to move. Waste products need to be removed. Water is what helps make all of that possible. When hydration levels drop, even slightly, those systems become less efficient. The result? You may feel slower, heavier, more exhausted, less motivated. Tasks that once felt easy suddenly require more effort. And because these changes happen gradually, many people assume they are simply becoming older. But dehydration often disguises itself as aging. That's what makes it so deceptive. Another problem is that fatigue often creates a chain reaction. Imagine waking up tired. Because you're tired, you move less. Because you move less, your muscles become weaker. Because your muscles become weaker, everyday activities require more effort. Because everything feels harder, you become even more tired. Soon you're caught in a cycle that becomes increasingly difficult to escape. This is one reason hydration matters so much for healthy aging. Energy supports movement. Movement supports strength. Strength supports independence. And independence is something most seniors value deeply. Let's consider another example. John, age 81, had gradually stopped taking his morning walks. Not because of pain, not because of illness. He simply felt too tired. His daughter became concerned. She noticed he spent more time sitting and less time doing activities he once loved. Eventually, after speaking with a healthcare professional, John began paying closer attention to hydration. He started keeping a water bottle nearby throughout the day. He drank a glass of water with every meal. He drank a small glass whenever he returned home from errands. The changes were not dramatic overnight, but within several weeks, something remarkable happened. His energy improved. His daily walks returned. His mood improved. His confidence improved. Most importantly, he felt more like himself again. Now, hydration isn't a miracle cure, and not all fatigue is caused by dehydration. There are many reasons older adults may feel tired, but dehydration is one of the simplest and most correctable causes, yet it remains one of the most commonly overlooked. One reason is because the symptoms don't always look dramatic. You don't necessarily feel intensely thirsty. You don't always experience obvious warning signs. Instead, you simply feel a little slower, a little weaker, a little less energetic, a little less motivated, until eventually those small changes begin affecting daily life. And that's where the real danger begins. Because fatigue doesn't only affect how you feel, it affects what you do. You may skip social events. You may stop exercising. You may become less engaged with family and friends. You may spend more time alone. Over months and years, these small changes can significantly impact quality of life. This is why hydration is about much more than drinking water. It's about preserving vitality. It's about maintaining independence. It's about having enough energy to enjoy the years ahead. The good news? Sometimes improvement begins with something surprisingly simple. A glass of water in the morning. Regular hydration throughout the day. Paying attention to fluid intake even when you don't feel thirsty. Small habits, small choices, small actions. But over time, those small actions can help support a stronger, more energetic, and more active life. And if you've been feeling unusually tired lately, perhaps it's worth asking yourself one simple question. Am I truly getting enough water? Because sometimes the problem isn't aging. Sometimes the problem is that your body has been quietly asking for hydration all along. Danger 2, memory problems and mental confusion. Few things frighten older adults more than changes in memory. For many seniors, the first forgotten appointment, misplaced set of keys, or missed name during a conversation can trigger an immediate fear. Is this normal aging? Am I developing dementia? Should I be worried? These concerns are understandable. Our memories are deeply connected to our sense of identity. They help us maintain independence. They allow us to recognize loved ones, manage daily responsibilities, and feel confident in our ability to navigate life. That's why even small memory lapses can feel alarming. But what many people don't realize is that dehydration can sometimes mimic or worsen symptoms that resemble cognitive decline. The human brain is nearly 3/4 water. Every thought, memory, decision, and conversation depends on a properly functioning brain. When hydration levels fall, brain performance often suffers. The effects may not appear dramatic. Instead, they show up as subtle changes. Difficulty concentrating, mental fog, slower thinking, forgetfulness, trouble finding the right words. These symptoms often develop so gradually that people assume they are simply getting older. Let's talk about Frank. Frank was 82 years old. He had always been sharp. Friends admired his memory. He could remember birthdays, phone numbers, and stories from decades earlier. Then something changed. He began forgetting appointments. He repeated questions. Sometimes he would walk into a room and completely forget why he had gone there. His family became concerned. Frank became concerned too. The possibility of serious memory problems weighed heavily on his mind. Eventually, during a routine medical visit, his doctor asked detailed questions about his daily habits. One issue quickly became apparent. Frank drank very little water. Most days he consumed only coffee and a few small beverages. His doctor encouraged him to improve his hydration. Within several weeks, some of the mental fog began to lift. His memory wasn't perfect. No one's is, but he felt noticeably sharper and more alert. The lesson here is not that hydration cures memory disorders. It doesn't, but dehydration can make cognitive problems worse. And because it is one of the easiest factors to improve, it deserves serious attention. The frightening reality is that many seniors never connect their mental fog to hydration. Instead, they assume their minds are simply deteriorating. This creates unnecessary fear, and sometimes unnecessary limitations. When you feel mentally sluggish, you may stop challenging yourself. You may avoid social situations. You may lose confidence in your ability to manage finances, travel, or make important decisions. Over time, that loss of confidence can become as damaging as the symptoms themselves. That's why protecting brain health often begins with the basics: good sleep, physical activity, social connection, nutritious food, and proper hydration. The brain is one of the most remarkable organs in the human body. But like every other organ, it needs the right resources to function at its best. And water is one of those resources. Danger 3. Increased risk of falls and injuries. A single fall can change a life forever. That's not an exaggeration. For many older adults, a serious fall marks the beginning of a difficult chapter. Hospital visits, broken bones, loss of mobility, months of rehabilitation, reduced independence, and in some cases, a permanent decline in quality of life. What surprises many people is how often dehydration contributes to these incidents. Imagine standing up quickly after sitting for a while. Suddenly you feel dizzy. The room seems to shift. You grab a nearby chair for support. Perhaps you've experienced something similar. If so, you're not alone. Dehydration can reduce blood volume, making it harder for the body to maintain stable circulation. When this happens, standing up may cause temporary drops in blood pressure. The result can be dizziness, weakness, or unsteadiness. Now consider how dangerous that becomes at age 75, 80, or 85. A young person may stumble and recover. An older adult may not be so fortunate. Let's look at the story of Margaret. Margaret was 84 and lived independently. One morning she got out of bed and felt slightly lightheaded. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make her pause. She ignored it. Later that afternoon, she stood up quickly from her favorite chair. Again she felt dizzy. This time she lost her balance. Fortunately, she escaped with minor bruises, but the experience shook her confidence. For weeks afterward, she became fearful of walking alone. She reduced her activities. She stopped attending community events. Her world became smaller, not because she was incapable, but because fear had taken hold. This is something many seniors don't talk about. Sometimes the emotional impact of a fall is just as damaging as a physical injury. People lose confidence. They become hesitant. They avoid movement. And reduced movement often leads to weaker muscles and poorer balance. The cycle can become self-reinforcing. This is why hydration is about much more than preventing thirst. It's about protecting confidence, protecting mobility, protecting independence, and protecting the freedom to continue living life on your own terms. Danger 4. Silent stress on your heart and kidneys. Many symptoms of dehydration are easy to notice: dry mouth, fatigue, dizziness. But some effects occur quietly behind the scenes, and these hidden effects can be among the most important. Your heart and kidneys work continuously every minute of every day. They never take a vacation. They never truly rest, and they depend heavily on proper hydration. When the body lacks adequate fluid, the heart often has to work harder to move blood throughout the body. Meanwhile, The kidneys must work harder to conserve water and maintain balance. Think of it like asking an older car engine to run under increasingly difficult conditions. It may continue functioning, but the strain gradually increases. Let's consider Thomas. Thomas was 79. He intentionally limited water because he disliked nighttime bathroom trips. Many seniors can relate to this. It seemed like a reasonable compromise. Drink less water. Sleep through the night. Problem solved. Except it wasn't. Over time, Thomas began experiencing persistent fatigue and reduced stamina. Eventually, his healthcare team identified chronic dehydration as one of several contributing factors. The irony is that Thomas thought he was helping himself. Many seniors do. But hydration is not optional maintenance. It's essential maintenance. Every cell in your body depends on it. And unlike many health interventions, hydration is simple. It doesn't require expensive equipment. It doesn't require special training. Yet its impact can be profound. One of the greatest mistakes older adults make is waiting until they feel thirsty. Unfortunately, thirst becomes a less reliable signal with age. By the time thirst appears, dehydration may already be developing. That's why proactive hydration is so important. Your heart and kidneys are working for you every moment of every day. Supporting them starts with the simplest habit of all, providing enough fluid to do their jobs properly. Danger 5, loss of independence and quality of life. This final danger is perhaps the most important because it combines all the others. Most seniors don't wake up one day and suddenly lose independence. Instead, it often happens gradually, one small change at a time. Less energy, less confidence, less movement, less social activity, less engagement with life. And eventually, these small reductions begin affecting everyday independence. Let's talk about Susan. Susan was 83 and lived alone. She took pride in her independence. She drove herself to appointments, prepared her own meals, attended church regularly, met friends for coffee. She valued her freedom. Then she began feeling increasingly tired. Her balance felt less reliable. She experienced occasional confusion. Nothing severe, just enough to make daily life a little harder. Gradually, she stopped doing some of the things she loved. She declined invitations, stayed home more often, became less active. Part of the problem was chronic dehydration. Once she improved her hydration habits, she noticed meaningful improvements in energy, alertness, and confidence. Was hydration the entire solution? No. Healthy aging is never that simple. But it was an important piece of the puzzle. And that's the key lesson. Hydration isn't just about preventing thirst. It's about protecting the life you want to continue living. The ability to travel. The ability to play with grandchildren. The ability to attend family gatherings. The ability to live independently. The ability to enjoy retirement rather than merely endure it. Many people spend thousands of dollars searching for the secret to healthy aging. Yet one of the most powerful habits remains surprisingly simple. Drink enough water, not because it's exciting, not because it's trendy, but because your body depends on it. And because every year after 65, that simple habit becomes increasingly important. The goal isn't merely to live longer. The goal is to live better, to remain active, to remain engaged, to remain independent. And sometimes, one of the simplest ways to support those goals begins with something as ordinary as the next glass of water you choose to drink. Simple hydration habits every senior should know. The good news is that staying hydrated doesn't have to be complicated. Start your day with a glass of water. Keep water visible throughout the day. Drink regularly rather than waiting for thirst. Include water-rich foods such as fruits, vegetables, soups, and other hydrating foods. Pay extra attention during hot weather. And remember that coffee and tea can contribute to fluid intake, but plain water remains one of the best choices. Most importantly, make hydration a habit rather than an afterthought. Small daily actions often create the greatest long-term benefits. If you're over 65, dehydration is not something to take lightly. The symptoms are often subtle. The consequences can be significant. And many older adults don't realize what's happening until their health has already been affected. The encouraging news is that hydration is one of the simplest ways to support your body. It costs very little. It requires no special equipment, and it may help improve energy, mental clarity, balance, and overall well-being. Now we'd love to hear from you. How much water do you usually drink each day? Have you ever experienced symptoms that were later linked to dehydration? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story may help someone else recognize an important warning sign. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend or family member. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next video.